This next session is going to be all about what do successful workplace wellness programs look like. I look at the future, that's my job. And one of the things we've been looking at consistently for the last several years are what's happening with changing definitions and perceptions of wellness. And more specifically, one of the topics that has really bubbled up over the last few years that a lot of our corporate clients, for example, really want to talk more about is workplace wellness. Systematized workplace wellness programs, what the benefits of them are, how we define them, and what they actually look like. So today, many of you were sitting in sessions this morning which really started diving into this whole idea of workplace wellness. And this session is going to really marry some of the theory with the practice of it, because we have 4 great panelists who are each going to spend a few minutes walking you through some of the things that they've been working on. And then what we're going to do structurally is we'll have each one present one at a time, and then we're going to take the remaining time we have together to have an open discussion with them, ask them some questions and get their thoughts on some issues that are really pertinent to workplace wellness. So without any further delay, because we want to make sure we have maximum time with these 4 great folks, I'm going to bring the first one to the stage. Please welcome Enrico Bradesco. Did I say that well? Fantastic. Enrico is Chief Commercial Officer of Technogym. He oversees global business for Technogym, including the hospitality sector, which includes hotel spas and wellness centers, with a worldwide span and a focus on premium positioning. Enrico has held managerial roles in the high-end design, furniture, and wellness equipment industry over the past 7 years, developing and managing projects in all the continents. So again, please welcome Enrico Bradesco.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Technogym is one of the world leader in fitness equipment. But this definition is somehow limiting the scope of this company, because this company actually has got full wellness credentials, because wellness is a kind of philosophy within Technogym. And the way we conceive wellness is a holistic approach encompassing body, mind, and food, nutrition, and stress levels. So today, the topic is workplace wellness. For those of you that have been in this room since the start of the day, I'm going to show you facts and figures that you've already seen, because invariably the topic remains the same. Stress at work and inefficiency and unproductivity at work is a big issue, and it's causing costs, but it's also a matter of corporate social responsibility. The first key points are numbers. The impact of non-transmittable diseases or chronic diseases is increasing, and increasing over time, and is causing a massive impact economic-wise. Diseases like obesity, like back pain, like cholesterol, like hypertension, and this is the basic reason for this is physical inactivity, the lack of any physical exercise. And I'm not talking about structured physical exercise. I'm talking about any physical exercise. Apart from the economic implication, let alone the economic implication, there is also an element of corporate social responsibility, like I mentioned before, because corporations should take ownership of this major problem, because all those chronic diseases may at some point bring to death, and the numbers are increasing over time if you see the statistics. Only a simple example of how important, but how easy would be to get benefits tackling this issue is that, according to the World Economic Forum, a corporate wellness program just tackling three basic factors like bad nutrition, like physical inactivity and smoking could result in net savings of around in excess of $20 million for an average corporation of 10,000 employees. So we're talking about big numbers here. But what are the real benefits of a structured corporate wellness program or workplace wellness program? Obviously, the first one is to reduce absenteeism. The second one, which is not that intuitive, but some people mentioned that this morning as well, is to reduce presenteeism. So when actually an employee is at work but not performing at full capacity, let me use it this word, because of any sort of the diseases that we mentioned before. And that is implicating big cost for the company. So a good workplace wellness program could reduce up to 80% presenteeism and absenteeism. But according to, there's also another staggering statistic. According to the Harvard Business Review, $1 spent in a structured workplace wellness program could result into more than $3 return on investment. So, and this is my last slide because I've been told to keep it very short and concise. What is the standard process of a workplace wellness program? First of all is the assessment. And the assessment is meant to map out the three basic dimensions of the average profile of an employee. And we're talking about nutrition habits, we're talking about stress levels, and then the third one is the how active physically is the employee. And the assessment can be structured or even very simple. It could be based on a web-based questionnaire. Then we come to the prescription. There's the second stage through which we prescribe some guidances in order to address the issues came up from the assessment, and which is some suggestion of behavioral change or advice to manage the stress levels or how to become more physically active and productive. All of these steps that I'm talking about are managed within Technogym through a technological platform, but I'll come to that later on. Then there is the third step, which is rewarding, and this is a crucial step because it means engaging, rewarding and engaging people. Otherwise, the penetration of the workplace wellness program will not reach a level that one would expect. So engagement and rewarding is absolutely of the essence. And what do I mean by rewarding? Anything that could be material and important for an employee. For example, a very common element is, sport gear, just to, emphasize the concept of physical activity, but also could be ticket shows or tickets for shows or for football games, something that is very simple but immediate. The last step is managing and measuring. This is crucial. An effective corporate or workplace wellness program has to collect all the data coming from the employees and make sure that there is a structure mapping of all these habits in terms of nutrition and physical activity, so that there is the possibility to address the single profiles and performances based on these facts. And moving forward, technology helps big time with this regard, because, for example, with the cloud, with the storage of all the data in the cloud, and we at Technogym have the My Wellness Cloud, there is a dashboard for every employee through which one at a glance can see the performance of the employee insofar as nutrition, again, physical activity, and so forth. But the strategy of the company could be summed up in wellness on the go, because not only, obviously, it would be easy for us because it's our bread and butter to track the performance of an employee when he's at the gym, at the corporate gym. But you need to keep track of the physical activity and the habits of the average employee, also outdoors. So the wellness on the go is something that looks after the physical activity and the lifestyle habits everywhere, at work, on holiday, at the doctor, at home, and outdoor. This is the holistic approach that, if you want to get more details, of course, I'll be happy to give you. For now, it's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrico. Thank you, Enrico. That was great. And now we're going to segue from that into our second panelist, Roberto Arjona, who is the Chief Executive and General Manager of Rancho La Puerta. Roberto leads over 400 employees at North America's first destination spa, Rancho La Puerta. His passion for the wellness community has made him a strong advocate for cultural and environmental programs that support sustainable tourism. He believes that the future success of the global travel industry will depend on its ability to integrate wellness and unique experiences with social responsibility and environmental stewardship. Please welcome Roberto Arjona.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So, just a quick disclaimer. I have 8 minutes for this presentation. I'm going to start counting. There's also another disclaimer that I have too many slides, so I'm supposed to go a little quicker. So anyway, Jared, let's go ahead and start. So first, I guess I should tell you, as a person that was born in Mexico City, welcome to Mexico. The sad part about welcoming you to Mexico is that Mexico is the most obese country in the world. And being in Rancho La Puerta, being in Mexico, I think it's important to do something about it. We're a destination spa, we're supposed to make healthy people healthier. And our issue is that we're not starting with our employees, we're not starting with our communities. So even though Deborah and the professor and the Seke family has been doing wonderful things for our employees and the community for many, many, many years, back in 2010 at a congress we attended, I was listening to this woman that has a very small spa, probably with 8 employees. And the way she was expressing herself about her wellness program, which wasn't an amazing program, but the passion about that program led me to think hard on what we are doing at the ranch for our employees. So I have to say that our current wellness program started back in 2010, inspired by the same people that we see day in and day out. So I will skip that and that. And to talk about the Rancho La Puerta program, I think I need to take us back out into the world. And what I mean by that is that when we looked at the statistics, we looked at what are we going to do for our staff. We needed to understand what is killing us, what is really making us sick and making us unhealthy employees. So we went back to the world, and of course the same suspects, right? Cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, respiratory diseases, and others are the ones that are really, really killing our people. More than 38 million people are being affected by this, 75% of them are in underdeveloped countries. So that is where we have the biggest challenge today. Then we took it to Mexico. We brought it back down to Mexico. We have the same issues: cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, respiratory problems. And this is about 605,000 people a year in Mexico that are being affected by that. So the big question was, what are we doing about it? What is Rancho La Puerta really doing about that? We identified these, the primary habits, and earlier on in the conversations, we've been listening to what's causing all these issues, and it's really poor decisions. We're making the wrong decisions day in and day out. So we identify poor diet, alcoholism, tobacco smoking, and the lack of exercise. And of course, that is true for Mexico as well. So knowing all of this, what we did is we wanted to create a program that was going to go to the root problem, that was going to be going to the habits of our employees, but we didn't want to stop there. In a conversation I had with one employee, the employee mentioned, I want to exercise, but I go home and I find my family, they're sitting on the couch watching TV, and that's the end of my exercise. So I thought, that's very clever, let's include the family. Our program, our wellness program, and what I believe is the success of our program is because of the inclusion of their family members. And it's been amazing. Now, I'm going to go into some numbers now. I'm going to skip unnecessary slides here. Sorry, Jared. And before I go into the program, what we're doing about it, there's one very important key component that I think every company should really, really look carefully at. As long as your employees are not at the same level as your clients in what you want for your clients, they're going to take second place. So the very first thing we did was to revise our mission. We revised our mission, our vision, and our values. And in that, we said we're going to provide our guests and employees, we put them, doesn't look like side by side, but they're really, really side by side. We're going to provide them with experiences that enhance the growth of their minds, bodies, and spirits in the healthy and natural setting that promotes learning, growth, and vitality. Then we went on to the mission, and we wanted to inspire leadership. We wanted to inspire leadership not only from the leaders, but we wanted to inspire leadership within our employees. And interestingly enough, this morning I heard that if we guide the process of the wellness program and the employees don't take ownership, it's most likely not going to happen. So we really want to empower our employees to be the leaders of these programs. On our values, the very first word there, health, was paramount to us. That needed to be the reason. That needed to be the very first value for us, and we've done that. So having all of this, I'm going to skip what we do for our guests because I'm sure all of you know what we're doing for our guests, but most importantly, what we're doing with the employees. And with the employees, we take a very different approach. I mentioned we invite their families. We do programs that include psychologists, includes physical exercise, nutrition, and it includes a lot of workshops for them. We also have taken some really hard stands, and I'll get to that point now, but soda consumption at the ranch is essentially non-existent anymore. So what we did is we created a different brand for the employees and a different brand for the community, and that's, and essentially in English is human development. It's the human development center that we created, and that is where we're basing our employee wellness from. So it's not a Rancho La Puerta wellness program. As I mentioned, we do workshops, we do a lot of exercising with their families, and I'm just going to get to the heart of the presentation, which is really, this is what we're providing to them. On a regular basis, all of our programs include motivation, leadership, effective supervision, emotional intelligence. Well, you can read the bubbles. We really, really have what I believe a very strong program. And these are some of the more basic stuff that you would find at a wellness program. So you can see that we really try to touch on everything that our employees may need for their health. We measure everything, so they do get tests. We have 98% participation, so we really know where they started in 2010, and we know what we have today. They do lots of fun classes. They do Zumba and spinning, and I do not participate on that. We do have natural juices and smoothies for them when they come into the ranch. So as soon as you're going to cross the gate, you have an option to stop there and have a healthy breakfast before you start the day. And many of them are taking advantage of that. We also have a healthy meal plan at the ranch. So they may choose to have all the services at a discount. And of course, the famous vending machines are all healthy products. So we do have them, but they're all healthy. Rancho La Puerta is a soda-free or a soft drink-free environment. We encourage our employees to voluntarily stop drinking soda while they're at the ranch. And of course, we are a smoke-free company as well. We have newsletters. We have vaccination campaigns. So we really try to go in every single aspect that you can think of for a really good, strong wellness program. But, okay, Jared, one more minute. We have a bicycle program. We have microloans. We pay for the bicycles. They pay them little by little, and they ride to work. That's a very, very important program that we have. And you're right, there are too many slices, aren't they? So this is very interesting. This right here, we started in 2010, so the blue line is sick days, basically. And the orange line is accidents at work. Now, if they don't mind the 1490, that's number of days, that was a very odd accident that happened outside of work. But if you look at the orange line, what we did is we looked at who got these accidents. And every single person that was involved in those accidents had a problem with obesity out of our employees. No one that was involved in the program had any accidents whatsoever in that period. And so, of course, when you're looking at it as a company, you talk about productivity, you talk about return on investment, you realize that it does pay back. Now, I must say that the reason we created the wellness program for the employees has nothing to do with monetary return on investment. It's what we do, is what we believe in, and that comes first. Someone was asking earlier about staff turnover. And as it is, Rancho La Puerta doesn't get a lot of turnover, I believe, because of the environment. But if you take a look at the drop in Rancho La Puerta on its own, we're at 3.5% year to date on turnover. Last year, we closed at 7.9. Mexico is 17.8%. So if we compare ourselves against our own country, that's a huge, huge difference in regards to staff turnover. And when we talk about obesity, so if you look, it's July 2015 and March 2012. Look at the lines. The difference since we started this program is huge. We have lost, and you'll see here, we have a very 8.3% obesity and overweight has dropped. We have increased normal weight by 6.6%. And abdominal obesity, we've gone from 50.5% to 37.4%. We lost 415 inches of waist. So, you know, that big fat guy is shrinking. And this is pretty shocking. So that's 2 pounds of what 2 pounds of fat look like. We've lost 1,810 pounds of fat. We're measuring fat, we're not measuring weight for that exercise. So the results have been really, really, really unbelievable. And Jared, that's it. That's what we're doing. We're hoping to do a lot more, and I'm around for questions.
Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you.
That was great. Our third panelist is Denise Bober, who is Vice President, Human Resources at the Breakers in Palm Beach. As one of the hospitality industry's premier human resources specialists, Denise evolved the Breakers' highly accomplished HR division to encompass recruitment, employment, staff relations, training and development, wellness, safety, and community service. Since joining the Breakers in 1988, Denise has advanced the company's organizational culture to make employee fulfillment and wellness top priority, driving best-in-class retention, guest satisfaction ratings, and financial results. Please welcome Denise Bober.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I do want to ask the audience, how many of you have either stayed at or are familiar with the iconic Breakers Resort? Okay, very good. Very good. So what I want to do before I start to tell you our story, because that's what Susie had asked me to do when she contacted me to be a panelist here. She wanted me to tell you our story of our journey of wellness. So for the Breakers, the well-being and fulfillment of our 2,000 team members are top priority. We're an independent, family-owned resort which makes an unprecedented investment in the commitment to empower our staff with the tools and resources to enrich their lives and healthy living practices and work-life integration. Back in 2003, that's when we started this journey of wellness. Myself and my colleague, Pat Ciavla, our Director of Team Member Development, who joins me here today in the audience, set out to extensively research wellness initiatives to lay a new foundation of health and wellness for our employees. We ultimately found an organization back then that was called LGE, now known as the Human Performance Institute, the same organization that Dr. Fikri was talking about, which J&J, Johnson & Johnson, acquired in 2008. The reason we began the journey was we wanted to elevate our workplace and to do more for our organization because it was important for us to partner with a company with a comprehensive approach that addressed wellness on multiple levels. It was never about the return on investment, and it still is not. We did not want to merely add healthy food to the employee cafe or add physical activities as our superficial gestures to make the point about diet and exercise. We knew the best companies back then were on the path, and we knew intuitively that by taking care of our people and by taking care of our bodies, we were ultimately taking care of business, and that was loud and clear. So when we first set out, Pat and I were very underwhelmed at what we discovered, or lack thereof. At that time, there were not a lot of solid wellness programs or journeys tailored to the corporate sector, and the information available was equally scarce. While we could have created something internally or settled on a program whose efficacy was questionable, we discovered that the Human Performance Institute were pioneers in this field in corporate America, and we were delighted to be one of their first partners. Within 10 minutes of arriving on their campus in Lake Nona, Orlando, Pat and I were the two guinea pigs from the organization who went, we immediately proceeded to have our blood drawn. That was the first thing we did. Both of us were very intrigued by the medical component to the program. We also had to come prepared with a completed 360 evaluation that was completed by our family, our peers, our supervisors, our subordinates. And the third, what we call facing the truth component, was we had to go into what's called the bod pod, where we had our body fat and lean muscle measured. And if anybody has ever been in a bod pod, it's a pretty humiliating experience. You're in a Speedo with a cap and you're getting your body fat measured, and you come out and you get these very eye-opening facing the truth results. We've since then evolved it to use a machine called an InBody 520, which is a little bit less humiliating. You stand on it, but it gives you great results as well. We realized that it wasn't just the boot camp about eating right and moving correctly. There was the mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions to the program too, and we had not planned on delving so deeply into our lives. But this was a very freeing experience, and accordingly, we understood that this multi-level approach was essential in order to get our physical foundation correct. These are the things we needed to learn. We needed to learn scientifically how the body works, and that the ability to manage energy and achieve well-being involves physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual components. Tactically, it covered learning how to eat light and often, how to sleep, move, and breathe the right way, but it was so much more than that. We thought about the unprecedented experience about spending 3 days in the company of other managers talking about what your purpose is in life. what you want inscribed on your tombstone. Who does that? Who did that in corporate America? There was a realization that we wanted to take back to our employer, that the value of what we believe in is the means to achieve our purpose. We were fortunate that our owners and our president was behind it from the very beginning. As you can imagine, when we first returned to the Breakers and introduced the corporate athlete program to management, not everybody bought into the initiatives. There was concern, there was fear, people did not want to change, and that's what we found. But over time, as we kept pushing this journey on and created this culture of wellness, they slowly began to believe in the program and participated. Just over a year after we first attended in Orlando, we convinced our senior management group to go up. We took 30 people up to Orlando, and that was in 2006. And 10 years later, the Breakers sees the result after regularly implementing this program on site. Corporate Athlete remains a cornerstone of the organization's wellness platform. It's a 3-day executive training curriculum that has contributed to high energy levels in the organization, productivity, and fulfillment for all who have participated in it. And I, along with my colleague Pat, are still the original facilitators of the program, and we enjoy it so much and learn every time we go through the program. So I'm going to, we have other programs that spun off that, but in the interest of time, I'm going to pass through that. So within the organization's wellness culture, we know that communication to our team members is key. So our monthly newsletter reflects the mantra, and our mantra is life well lived. And it highlights the many wellness initiatives available to staff, such as personal training, cardio tennis, an on-site green market that we have from November through May, where our team members can buy veggies, grass-fed meats, fresh produce. We also promote the availability of an on-site health coach, with whom our team meet at a minimum of 1 per year. And we also feature a program called Create My Plate, which is an interactive meal program at our Breakaway Cafe, run by our health and wellness advisor, where they learn the 12 best nutrition practices. Nonetheless, with all these successful programs, I take heed in the company's philosophy of continuous enhancement, or as our president Paul Leone likes to say, even on our best day, we can always be better. So in 2014, we asked an outside management consultant firm to come in and do an analysis on our program to see what our results were. The goal was to study the outcomes of all related initiatives by examining how they were received by the employees, how the Breakers as the employer perceived their effectiveness, and to what degree, based on the company's potential, does a culture of wellness actually exist. The research and due diligence showed that over the past 10 years, the company's health has built a robust wellness program, and the health and lives were notably improved because of these initiatives. And they were created and integrated within the workplace. Common achievements among our employees were the ability to lose weight, eliminate prescription medications, and extend health and wellness knowledge into their home, because we too agree that you need to bring the families into this as well and impact the families, or else it will not work. The consultants measured what our progress has been over the last decade, given the many wonderful things that we were doing, and so now, 10 years later, we have the data to prove it. Okay, I'm going to skip through that. Because our employees speak 56 different languages and are from all over the world, and that's why it's such a passion of ours to help the world and not just our community, I suggest to any human resources professional or anyone who's trying to create a culture of wellness that you need to offer all of your programs in different languages. It can't just be in your native language. One key point of advice to ensure a thriving wellness program, you have to have the support of the right constituents. I heard this morning, don't give it to HR. Well, I'm HR, but I had the support of the right constituents to make those changes happen, and that's what happens, okay? So, you know, it's our belief that right now there's no wellness program that's capable of eradicating the world's deadliest disease, but a well-designed wellness program that incorporates biometric screening, Preventative screening tests that focus on nutrition, exercise, may reduce the individual's susceptibility to a disease by elevating awareness, education, and discipline around healthy living. And I'm just going to end with telling you a little bit about what our health plan costs look like. So on average, the Breakers Health Plan claims experience suggests 2% of our member population drives 45% of total plan costs in any given year. High-cost claims are inevitably reality of administering a health plan. Our experience shows that despite a company's best efforts, high-cost claims will be experienced, okay? So the medical and pharmacy cost trend nationally for a 5-year period ended December 31st, 2014 was 9.4%. During the same period, the medical and pharmacy cost for 2,000 member population covered under the Breakers Health Plan was 3.2%. More impressively, the average claims cost per member only increased 0.9% during the same period. The size and demographic diversity of the Breakers population had essentially remained the same during that time. It is our belief that the relative outperformance of the Breakers' medical claims experience is directly correlated to the Breakers' investment in creating a culture of wellness. So our roadmap to you would be choose effective policies and programs, act on what is important, and make sure you evaluate all of your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Our final panelist today is Michelle Hocking, who is the Health and Performance Manager from Google. Since 2011, Michelle has worked at Google managing its massage workplace program that spans over 80 offices in 36 countries. Michelle's program educates and empowers workers to care for their bodies and minds through massage, exercise, movement, and relaxation. Please welcome Michelle Hocking. And Michelle, don't worry about the clock. We have a few minutes beyond that, and we're also going to have time for a couple of discussion questions, so don't feel too much pressure.
Thank you. So in my world as Health and Performance Manager at Google, it's a pretty simple aim that you see here on the slide. So I have the pleasure of actually working in this building itself. That's the second floor of my building in Mountain View in Silicon Valley. But more broadly speaking, the team that I work on helps Googlers do their jobs, do it well, and still have energy when they go home to spend with their family and loved ones. So happy, healthy, highly productive Googlers is kind of this mantra that we all say. But specifically for all of you, when you go back to your workplaces, there are really 4 behaviors we're trying to drive. The ability to focus, the ability to socialize, to collaborate, and to learn. So what we do in my world at Google kind of falls into these 4 buckets that are in red. Certainly, we have a facilities management team building out the spaces that Googlers work in, a real estate team acquiring those buildings, security team keeping us safe, and then more directly to my world, the Googler services team. So to say it a different way, if we think kind of like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have at our base the foundational needs that you have, the basics to do your job, shelter, utilities. And then, of course, we have the spaces to do our job and things that remove the barriers. So, for example, the shuttle program that many of you may have heard about that Google offers to help remove the strain and cognitive load from the start and end to a Googler's day. Then the next tier is more in my wheelhouse, as Jared mentioned, running the massage program for Google and now also running the fitness program, or more broadly, the movement and recovery programs. And then my most favorite space of all, and a space I think a lot of you can relate to, the aspirational space. So how might we at Google create an environment where a Googler is better off in their lifespan because they came to Google, versus a more typical workplace experience where work may not only make it a cost neutral of not offsetting the negative, but in fact may trigger the negatives. So if I could be a little more specific for you, on the health and performance team, there's a lot here, and a lot of it has been published. These are words right from Fortune magazine, our 6th year of winning Best Company to Work For. And this is a picture from what we call Garfield, Googler's named. And it's a wonderful workspace. It's one of our fitness centers that obviously is outdoors. So we certainly have traditional fitness centers and a little less traditional fitness centers. But if we think more broadly about the fitness component of the health and performance team, we found that getting getting Googlers physically active certainly needs to appeal to them in their direct interests. So whether that's related to stage of life, perhaps a postnatal or prenatal fitness workshop, or to their interests and skill sets. Perhaps it's dance or martial arts, or we even have a Quidditch team. And how I got my start in this industry as a massage therapist, starting at age 14, I always have a soft spot for massage, and I'm proud to say we have the largest workplace massage program with over 100 massage therapist employees and 400 vendors additionally, serving over 110 offices. But more broadly in the recover space, you may have heard a lot around what we do in sleep. We have a lot of sleep spaces, nap pods. We're doing a lot more to service sleep and provide sleep concierges. And also in the recovery space, we've been doing a lot around meditation, and I'm not the best person here today to talk to you about that, but Chade Meng has created a wonderful program called Search Inside Yourself, which I implore you to check out on YouTube. So I've talked to you about what we do and how we do it, but I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about why. So in talking to just really a handful of Googlers, when we think that the company is over 50,000 now today, and talking to 300 Googlers and asking them, what does leading a full life mean to you, which is part of my mission and my whole team's mission of the health and performance team, helping Googlers lead full lives, not to find a work-life balance, but to find full lives. For many, particularly new engineers in their first job at Google, which at least half the population is engineers, they find that work brings them more fulfillment than perhaps their personal lives do at this moment in time. So leading a full life to them is something that resonates more than a work-life balance phrase might. So this was the surprising finding for us. Diet, exercise, wellness, the things we've traditionally bundled in our 17 years at Google, those were not the responses we got of what leading a full life means to Googlers. As you can see from some of these mini whiteboards, which are fantastic for brainstorms, the answers were around happiness, experiences, family, friends, growth, and a conversation I've heard a lot about today already, the sense of purpose. So we've posed the question to ourselves, in addition to asking Googlers and designing the services for them, what opportunities might we have to design for their primary, deeper needs versus their secondary needs? So I'll leave you by talking about two examples of how that might look. So if we go back to fitness, which is a very robust program with a whole spectrum of services, we decided to look at users and talk needs first, start clean canvas, no services. And there were three real user needs or user types we saw. The balancers, which I think a lot of us can relate to today. So perhaps you had tequila last night, and today you'll make sure to do a run or yoga to offset that. The competitors, where maybe it's a drive to compete against others, but perhaps it's just a drive to compete against yourself. And we've seen this huge movement if you think of Strava and the quantified self and the sense of accomplishment. And then thirdly, personal growthers. I mentioned this with some of the dance clubs we may have or Quidditch and things. Personal growthers, those who might have this drive for excellence and lifelong learning. Certainly there's overlap here, but if we just take one of these three types and think about how we design a service for them, maybe fitness isn't how the conversation starts. What if we were to instead think about somebody's stress intake, whether that be unintentional stress that we encounter, or perhaps intentional stress? I think that's one of the interesting things about working in a vacuum of a workplace environment. These workers are coming and opting into stress day in and day out. And when they're putting themselves in those stressful scenarios of hopefully creating products that go on to change the world, organizing the world's information and making it universally accessible is not a stressless deed. So, of course, when we encounter stress, we need to go through some sort of adaptation to help the recovery cycle. And I've bolded for you here three ways we often think of when we think of that adaptation. Let's do a medical intervention to help them through that stress. Let's get them to exercise. Let's think about diet. And I don't want to discount those important three pillars, but thinking about some things we've already heard about today, maybe a bit of a broader conversation about an adaptation. So sleep, healthy materials, other stress management techniques, perhaps indoor air quality, or reducing cognitive load with things like commute. Could we help the balancers to design a lifestyle that suits them with a different solution offered up than, say, the bundled traditional fitness you might find in a traditional workplace? And then I'll leave you with this, which it's not often, even at Google, that we find a way to make the space speak for itself. We found an intervention of a service provider has been pretty critical. But this is an exception. We set up what we call a flow dojo, and we were putting Googlers through almost like an astronaut training, where they were getting put up against something that might test their grit, force them to build a bit more resilience. You can see the gentleman on the swing. The machine in the back actually inverts you around, and as you get the motion going, it powers the lights. The point of kind of this very flashy environment was to help them to get to an enhanced cognition state. So when they go back to their desk and perhaps they're coding or doing sales calls or myself designing services for Googlers, they're raising the bar of their effortless effort, that focus without the sweat equity piece. So if I think about the personal growthers and how we've packaged the Quidditch and the dance classes, perhaps this is a more robust way to find a challenging, an inspiring and engaging opportunity for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That was fantastic. And so I know that we are up here on the stage staring at a red screen full of zeros, but I am going to be a naughty boy and extend this a few minutes. We got started late, so we actually do have a few minutes to play with, and I would like to take advantage of the brain trust we have up here on stage. So I'd like to just pose a couple of questions to you. The first one, and this is something, Michelle, you and I were actually talking about earlier today. In our shop, we have a concept called Verflex, which we view as very much being the future of work, and that's all about virtual work done on flexible time. And the future, in many ways, will be less about input, for example, clocking in and out, and more about the idea of output and getting your work done however you get it done as best you can. So I'll start with you, Michelle. I'll put this to you and then to the rest of the panel. Talk about understanding that some jobs do have to be done on premises, obviously, including some of the positions that some of you were talking about here. But talk about how you see virtual and remote work impacting workplace wellness in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in Google, we're certainly seeing that, there are a lot of different companies that make great video conferencing software, Google's being Google Hangouts, and co-location does help with collaboration, but the ability to collaborate on a virtual software is almost, the same amount of benefit. And when I think about how we design services to serve perhaps a remote population, as that happens more and more, I try and think about how we can leverage what we already do. So, for example, our massage therapists have one-to-one relationship with their clients. We have on-site massage rooms. The Googlers can schedule themselves on our online tool. But once they're there for the service interaction, it's pretty traditional. But the part we're hearing from Googlers that is most critical is the pre and post follow-up from their therapist. And so now we've gone to design self-care classes for Googlers. And some of those are done over the Google Hangouts, and some are done in person. So to your question of how do we design for this more flexible and perhaps more remote-based workforce, I think we'll be able to leverage some of the best of what we already do. And I do still think there will be the call for people to come together, but perhaps it won't be in one brick and mortar location. So we'll have to find ways to replace that. But the knowledge is what we're unlocking from our service providers. And touch, for example, sometimes it's self-touch that's getting more benefit anyhow.
That's great. Any other thoughts? And something related to that, which didn't come up much during the presentations, but I know is something that all of you are probably thinking about, is the idea of sleep and how sleep is tied into all of these factors. And so when I think about remote work and I think about people operating sort of on their own schedules, do any of you have any additional thoughts about this idea of remote work or calibrating sleep cycles to achieve wellness and increase productivity? Any other thoughts on the panel? Denise?
Well, in my world, most of our team members are in operations, so they have to be there to directly serve the guest and can't do that remotely. But we do have a remote workforce, and we are trying to bring them in. We've got some work to do, but we're trying to bring them into that energy that's part of the mothership when it comes to our wellness programs. But technology is going to play a big part in that, and Dr. Fikri talked about it this morning, or this afternoon, and just one simple thing, I'm going to promote it here. There's a 7-minute app that's free that you can download. It's from the Human Performance Institute. It's a 7-minute workout. It works, and we're going to get more into that with our remotes and our team members on site as well. So technology is going to play a big part in that.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Enrico?
I was thinking along the same lines. When the workload is heavy and the obvious result is a stressful working day, it is absolutely proven that a structured physical activity can help out in reducing the stress. Even, very snappy physical activity during the day, 5 minutes breakout session, and then get back to the desk, it helps dramatically. And actually, it helps also preparing the body for the sleep cycle at night. So, just going back to what you were mentioning before.
That's great, thank you. And as a follow-up to that, and this is a question I think that all of you would probably have an answer to, because this is universal, but do you have any thoughts on the generational differences or implications of workplace wellness programs? In other words, how do we have to approach this differently with millennials or Gen Y and those who are coming up behind them, Gen Z, versus how we approach it with, for example, baby boomers in the workforce? I mean, obviously you have to, it's sort of the old adage that, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So what do the four of you think about different approaches to workplace wellness based on different generational cohorts? Roberto.
I think I have a perfect situation there. I have 3 generations at the ranch. So I essentially have the grandfather, the father, and the grandson working with us. And we do see the change in how we have to communicate to one another. One of the tools that we have been using for the older generations has been to help them gain awareness of the load that they can take from their family members. So, the younger generation, sure, you can be fit, you can work out hard, you can be well and take care of yourself for years to come. The older generations, we're viewing it a little bit more from the don't leave that load to your family members. And we see it often. We see older employees when they get sick. In our culture in Mexico, we take care of our family directly. And that puts a great load on caretakers. So we're approaching it differently. Don't do it for you, because at one point it's like, I'm already 60 or 70 and I'm talking to a 93-year-old healthy woman in front of me. But for them, sometimes they say, I'm done. I've arrived. Why would I want to do this? And it is important for them to understand that they're not done. They're going to live 80, 90, and they better do it in a healthy way. But most importantly, the load that they can take away from their family members. So we definitely use different approaches for different generations.
That's great. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, for millennials is easy because they're well into technology, and technology is a great way for having people engaged. And basically, actually today technology, as I mentioned before, offers a very powerful platform for managing an effective wellness program. For other people, wellness at work is a matter of change. And, we haven't mentioned change, but change, this process entails changing habits, which is, a big barrier in everyone's routine. So it's really important to have every level of the organization to select change agents, to get them on board on the wellness program, so that they trigger the change process for all the rest of the people.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because that gets at really the root of how to execute this successfully. And the idea of change and change agents and having those people internally, I think, is critical. So I'm glad you brought that up. And that'll segue into the final question. And then I think I will have used up all the rope from the lovely... No, we're done? Are we done? Okay. I wanted to give them at least 5 minutes of discussion time, so I will just leave with this. I think all 4 of you are going to be here for the remainder of the event, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So anyone in the room who wants to tap their wisdom and ask them any follow-up questions about any of this, please feel free to do so. And join me in giving one more hand to our 4 fantastic panelists.